I'm going to show you how I grew my back using a minimalist training approach, using just 4 bodyweight exercises and 1 set per exercise. I'm also going to show you the common mistakes and the techniques and methods you need to implement to maximize your gains with this approach. So most people think you can't make gains with such little volume, such little training with this minimalist approach, and I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not the case. Now in my case, I've been doing this absolute bare minimalist training now for, I would say, a good year, and this has been the best year of gains I've ever made. It's where I've got the most muscle, the most strength, and it's actually blown me away how effective this has been. And I found the minimalist approach out of necessity, essentially. I had 2 kids under the age of 4. I work as a tennis coach, personal trainer. I have very minimal time. I don't have time to go to the gym anymore. I have to train at home in this home setup. I used to do crazy volume, crazy sessions. I used to do 2.5, 3 hour sessions, mostly bodyweight sessions. And my mindset was, if I can't go to the gym and do at least 2.5 hours, there's no point going to the gym. So that's where I'm coming from. All right. And now I'm probably doing 90 minutes per week, and I'm making better gains than I have done in years, guys. I'm not lying to you here. This is fantastic. This is why I'm putting this video out there. I know this really can help. So this minimalist approach is for anyone that's got a really busy lifestyle, has hardly any time to train, or just someone who doesn't really want to spend a lot of time in the gym, doesn't want to be like a typical gym bro and training, being there for an hour and a half plus, someone who doesn't orientate their whole life around training and so forth. Maybe someone just wants to train at home, get in, get out, get the maximum results from the minimal time, live the rest of their life, got other things going on. So this is where I think minimalist training comes into play for the majority of people that I'm talking about. And minimalism is basically you don't see minimalism as minimal gains. You actually see it as maximum gains in the least amount of time. And in some cases, it is going to be optimal for people like myself. I mentioned, right? I'm so busy. My recovery isn't great. I don't sleep great. I don't have a lot of rest. And actually, I found doing this minimalist approach is the best for me, is where I'm getting the max amount of gains for myself. So this could very well be the case for you. So in regards to my training and my back training, I've always struggled with my back, growing my back. In fact, I've always struggled putting on muscle in a lot of areas. I don't have the best genetics for building muscle. I'm quite a big guy. I'm 6'2". I'm quite broad. I always was quite strong, but I never was able to get that aesthetic look, build muscle. I've got not very good genetics in that regard. There's only a few areas of my body that tended to put on muscle relatively easy. The rest was always a struggle, and for the most part, my back was a big struggle. I've always been stronger in pushing than pulling, and as you can see here in some of my old images, these were just from a few years ago. This one, at this point, I'd had an elbow injury for 14 months. I couldn't do any pushing, any pulling. A couple of other images here where I was training, but I just wasn't growing my back. My back wasn't getting strong enough. I wasn't doing the right training. I wasn't doing the right exercises, the right techniques, and so forth. I also have a big problem myself. I have a damaged nerve in my neck, which affects all of the right side of my body. So the whole right side of my body is now a lot weaker than my left side. I have some atrophy on my right side. So it's been a real challenge to figure out ways, techniques, and methods to get stronger and to put muscle on. But as you can see here with some of the images, this is the result of my minimalist routine. This is where I've been able to put on the most muscle, the most strength. I'm very happy with my results, especially with what I can do, the amount I can do, the methods that I'm implementing. I'm actually, to be honest, I'm really happy with the results. And this has come from this minimalist approach. So what are the exercises? I use just 4 bodyweight exercises to grow my back over the last few years. They are the pull-up, the chin-up, bodyweight row, and bodyweight face pulls. Just those 4 bodyweight exercises. With those, they are the basic compound bodyweight pulling movements. And I'm telling you guys, you don't need anything else than that. That is literally all you need. You don't need a plethora of exercises. You don't need to change it up every session. If you just stuck to those 4 exercises and you did them, you could do those forever. And if you implement the right methods, the right techniques and progressive overload and so on, you'll continue to make progress for, I'm pretty sure, the rest of your life. Now, just doing those exercises isn't quite enough. You can't just go and do those exercises forever. You need to understand some of the techniques, some of the principles that are going to keep you making progress over the long term, because you will plateau. You're just repping out sets and sets and whatnot. Eventually you hit a plateau and you won't make progress. So I'm going to break down the methods that you can use to keep making progress, and also some of the mistakes people make with bodyweight training, with minimalist training as well. So one of the big mistakes is I see people make, and one of the big mistakes I was making for many years and why I wasn't growing my back, was tempo. I was using the wrong tempo. I was going through the exercise way too quickly. All right, I was, especially on the eccentric, I was coming up to the top on the concentric, squeezing, but then going straight back down. And then again, I was going through the sets too quickly, and it was an ego thing. I wanted higher numbers, right? A set of 12 chin-ups sounds better than a set of 6. However, if you slow down, you have a better tempo. And the tempo I like to use is counting around 3 seconds in my mind on the eccentric coming down. And research shows that anything more than a second, there's not a huge amount of difference. So if you count in 3 seconds, it's not quite 3 seconds. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're slowing down, you're keeping tension on the eccentric. This is a game changer. This was made a big difference for me with my training, with my strength, with my progress, and of course with my muscle growth. So slow down, choose the tempo. As long as it's anything from a second or more on the eccentric, you're doing great. You're going to make much better gains. Don't worry about hitting higher numbers. That's just an ego thing. You're not here to compete with anybody else, just yourself. I guarantee if you slow down, use a slower tempo on that eccentric, you will make much better gains. Trust me. Another big mistake that I was making, a lot of other people were making, is not implementing this mind-muscle connection, not really being fully focused and present in what's happening during the movement. So let's take the chin-up or the row, for example. On the row, again, I was just rowing, I was going through the motion, getting to the burn until I couldn't do anymore. Since, again, I've been implementing that mind-muscle connection all the way through the movement, slowing down the movement so my tempo is slower, and because the tempo is slower, you can then feel the connection, you can feel the muscles working, you can feel the squeeze, good squeeze at the top, feel the technique, feel every muscle working on the whole range of motion. So if you do that mind-muscle connection will enhance muscle growth. There's a bunch of studies on this, that mind-muscle connection is very important, so make sure you're doing it. Now, here's the biggest mistake people make with minimalist training. If you're going into one set, you're going to the bare minimum, you're doing 1 set per exercise, which I recommend. You could do 2 sets, depending on how many exercises you do, but I recommend the 1 set. You have to go to failure, guys. You have to go balls to the wall. You can't leave sets in reserve, because the less sets you're doing, you have to up the intensity. And if you're doing the minimum amount of sets, which is 1, you have to do the maximum amount of intensity. That's a little mistake I was making, and I see other people making in the beginning of their minimalist sort of approach to training, is they're used to leaving, a lot of people are used to, and they're used to leaving 1, maybe 2 reps in reserve. You're not going to get hardly any gains out of that. You'll get some, but you won't get your maximum amount of gains with this approach. You have to go to train. You have to go to failure. Various ways you can do that, but for the most part, just go. Work your tempo, slow tempo, mind-muscle connection, and absolute failure till you can't do anymore. And that's going to give you the best results from this minimalist approach. Okay, so I just want to go through a couple of key techniques you need to use on these movements to maximize your muscle growth in your back for each movement. And what's really important here is that you understand how the scapula moves in relation to each movement. So you have some key movements of the scapula, and I'm going to take you through that now. Okay, hopefully you can see me here. So what do you have? You have elevation of the scapula, you have depression of the scapula, You have protraction, scapulars come forward, and you have retraction of the scapula, okay? And in almost all of these exercises, the scapula is going to depress and it's going to retract. All right, so your scapular is here, if you can see me now. Yeah, you're depressing the scapula down and back, or back and down. That's what you want. You want that so you get maximum tension on those back muscles, on that scapula. And that's going to be natural. That's going to be a natural movement for the scapula in relation to pulling either vertically or horizontally. Okay, so you can see me here, I hope, pretty good. So with the pull-up, wide grip, just a little bit more than shoulder width apart. And again, the first movement on the pull-up, I'm going to initiate the scapular. Okay, I'm going to pull down, I'm going to depress the scapular. Very important here, I'm going to lean back to maximize muscle growth on this on the pull-up. A lot of people think it's purely lats. I don't think pull-up is the best exercise for lats. I think rows is, but again, you have to a couple of changes on that technique, which we'll get into. But here for the pull-up, for the back, for the traps, for the lats, of course, and everything else, rhomboids, delts, you're gonna depress your scapula. You're gonna retract your scapula, and as you're retracting your scapula, you're arching your back. So you want your chest up, and you're pulling in that motion there. So you're pulling down in that arc, all right, with your scapula depressed and retracted. All right, so I'm at the bottom here. Okay, I'm at the bottom of the exercise. I'm hanging down. You can't see my feet here. I'm going to initiate my scapula, and then it's up, and I'm going to arc 3 seconds down. Come down, scapula, arc, boom. So that's it right there. So that initiation with the scapula at the bottom, initiate the scap, down, depress, retract. I'm in the arc, squeeze at the top. 3 second negative, and you're going to feel that in your back big time. Okay, so exercise number 2, chin-ups. Now, chin-ups with the rings. Obviously, difference chin-ups, pull-ups very wide, chin-ups quite narrow. Exactly the same motion with the scapula, guys. Exactly the same. I'm going to initiate, I'm going to press and retract with my scapula. I'm going to arch my back and come in at the top. Here with the chin-ups, the other difference, of course, is their hand position, right? Pull-ups tend to be in that pronated position. Chin-ups, you can go neutral, which is better for the elbows, or you can go supinated, right? I'm going to do this one supinated. I tend mostly to do it supinated. I vary between neutral and supinated, but most times supinated. So you're going to see here, I'm going to initiate at the bottom with my scapular. I initiate, scap first, come all the way up, squeeze. You see I'm arching my back. My scapular is depressed and retracted all the way back down slow. And then I'll repeat that again for the reps. And that's how you really get that squeeze. It's very, very important to always feel that squeeze at the top all the way through. And you're really going to feel that when you get that scapular, that relationship and that movement with the scapular. And definitely slowing down the tempo. Okay, and here's the rows. Bodyweight rows, again with the rings. Keep a neutral grip all the way through. Exactly the same. Retract, depress the scapula, squeeze at the top. 3 second negative. That's it for the rows. When you want to target more of the traps, the mid to lower traps, rhomboids, delts, etc., you're just going to row. You're going to bring your elbows all the way through, bring them back as far as you can. Your elbows come quite high. They start heading towards, you see on this part, you see from here, but they sort of head towards the ceiling, my elbows. That's going to get more of your traps and so forth. The difference is when you want to attack your lats. This is the difference with the movement with the elbows, is you don't want to bring your elbows so high. You want to keep them more in a straight path. I'll show you now. So this would be more for the traps. Pull your elbow, pull them more back. But for your lats, you want to keep more of a straight path. Your range of motion is not quite as big, and your elbow stays in that straight line, and that's going to attract your lats a lot more. So I'm not sure if you can see it too well here. I push it a little bit more round. So this one's going to be more for the traps and the mid back. Yep, boom. And then this one all for the the lats on that second one. But yeah, they are the differences between the two for the traps, targeting the traps, the mid back to the lats. So next one here is face pulls. Face pulls with the rings is great. You can do this on a bar if you just you loosen up your grip and you rotate your grip on the bar as well. But this is amazing for the rings. Again, exactly the same. You want depression and retraction with the scapula, but more of a neutral spine now. You're not trying to arch your back here or anything. This exercise primarily will target the upper traps. So you want to minimize the overworking of the upper traps. As always, we're all pulling because the upper traps are way bigger than the lower traps, and you don't want that impingement of the shoulder. So that's why I still depress and try to focus on the lower to mid traps as well. But it's a great. This exercise is, two for the price of one, right? You're killing two birds with one stone because you're also getting that external rotation. So here you go. I'm down here at the bottom. I initiate with my scapular, retract, depress, pull, bam, there's the external rotation, down. Scapular, come up, you see the rotation, come down, one more time, press, get the rotation, squeeze. There you go. Don't forget to squeeze at the top, squeeze that back muscles together, those shoulder blades together, even as you've got the external rotation. Amazing exercise. All right, guys. So if you enjoyed that video, I'd really appreciate a like. If you're new here, subscribe. If you've got any questions, ask in the comment section. I also really recommend you watch this video right here. That delves deeper into more of the general minimalist training approach.